All right, Crockett 36 here. This is War Room, the Eastern Front, right there. You can see it all. France and Norway are not included in the German setup, nor is North Africa, nor are there naval units. Russia gets everything but the island off of Japan. So it is an interesting game because the starting resources for Germany direct national income ends up with less oil than the Russians. So the Russians have the initiative in this round. Russia has 6, Germany has 4. So also interesting, the Scandinavian peninsula here is weak compared to if Russia was able to push in with both Karelia and Leningrad. Now the important thing is that the battle for the Germans is not over after one turn. There's only one way to avoid that, and that's to send Air Force in there. And unfortunately, even with Air Force, there's no guarantee that he doesn't wipe out the 4 units that are on the board. You do have a green tank, and they tend to survive. But if he wipes out the 4 units on the board, he will take Finland. And that's a good move for the Russians. So do you want to keep Finland is a good question. Now, that obviously also provides an opportunity for you to move the 48th from Baltic states and the 56th from Belarus into Leningrad and capture Leningrad. Now, obviously, he could respond to that, anticipating that you would do that by moving his troops from Bryansk to Leningrad. So all of that is sort of a chain reaction, and then the forces from Moscow can obviously rush into Bryansk. So an alternative to that would be to push into Bryansk. He could, if he marshaled all of his troops in the center, that could be quite a response on his part. However, remember that if you can do a Bryansk push and just shove everything forward to Bryansk, you can actually, if you survive Bryansk and you can marshal the troops correctly, you could actually push your units, if you have more of them in Bryansk, past Bryansk into Moscow turn 2. That's quite a move. It's a gambit, which I think should be tried, just like Sea Lion should always be tried to sound the depths of the strategic parameters. But a Bryansk push would be powerful, especially given the strength of a Nordic push with a Nordic scheme. All right, another great option for the Germans would be to push into Caucasus and take away the advantage that Russia has in oil. That's a huge element in this game, and you could push into, and again, you would want to sort of do a chain, sort of a wave effect. Poland and Bulgaria pushing into Ukraine, and Greater Germany pushing into Poland, and depending on the offensive and pinning capabilities of the Russians, you could be holding in Baltic and Belarus while you push in there, or you could be pinned in Ukraine. So you have to try to anticipate. A lot of times I've used turn 1 as a marshalling move. Having 2 infantry, 2 tanks, and 2 artillery is actually the worst case scenario. It provides for a lot of fodder, and with the fact that most of the dice hit, even with the blacks and the whites, particularly men, are not going to survive very long. And so to have a spread like you do in Ukraine is worse, actually, than he has in Caucasus, because greens will all be misses, whereas your greens will be hits. The greens he throws will be hits. You'll have force advantage, and that's good. But those men in Caucasus are probably toast anyways because of the number of yellows on the dice, and the white and the black. Those men are probably gone, and the artillery is almost certainly a loss. So you could, I could definitely see the Germans moving the 22nd. Move here would be the 22nd to R6. So let's try a Caucasus push. The 22nd to R6. It's not the best composition of forces. I don't like it at all, but it's a good move. Now, in reaction to that, you need to also put the 49th from Romania, Bulgaria, into G6, and that'll be 1 infantry, 1 tank, and 2 artillery, 2 men. In this game, I'm using the red chips as singles for the Russians and the gray chips as singles for the Germans. Color-coded chips is the thing of the future. Yeah. Okay, Poland is also going to push with its 2 infantry, 1 artillery, 1 tank into Ukraine. That would be the 72nd. Right here. The 72nd is going to push into G6. And that also means that Greater Germany, the 38th, is going to push into Poland, G4. Okay, so that's 4 moves. So right now I am going to think that well, let's take care of our marshalling of air units. What can we bring into the battle? Now, I'd like to bring in these fighters here, the 14th, out of Bulgaria, Romania, into the Caucasus, R6. I'd also like to bring the fighters in Ukraine, the 11th, and that's going to go into R6 as well. Now that's going to have 2 effects, helping the battle as well as marshaling your air forces. The fighters from G4, I think I'm going to bring those into G6 in case he tries an offensive push into Ukraine, because if he pushes into Ukraine with his large Bryansk force and his Caucasus force, he's got initiative. He'll actually pin us. Now you can't pin airplanes. Airplanes don't pin. But with the folks from Poland and Romania, I still might not have enough to overcome his what looks to be 8 infantry. I certainly don't have that. 2 tanks and 2 artillery. I think he's going to overwhelm me. So I'm going to bring those Polish air units, the 18th. I'm going to bring them into Ukraine in case there's a battle there. And that's our G6. Okay, and then my 12th fighter and bomber unit out of Greater Germany. Can't really do much. I'm going to take it to G6 and form a mighty air force. And then I'm gonna do a collapsing move into the 48th and into the 56th. Yeah, the 48th from Baltic states is going to move into